In the shadowy heart of Appalachia, a quiet town's fate hangs on a $100,000 Dodge Hellcat and a 16-year-old janitor willing to defy a vicious biker gang. When the notorious Iron Skulls descend to destroy the car, a shocking twist brings legendary boxer Mike Tyson roaring into the chaos. Bullets, fists, and a battle for justice collide in this adrenaline-fueled showdown. Will courage outmuscle cruelty, or will the night end in flames? This is no ordinary underdog story. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, and write in the comments what city you were from. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery orange glow over the desolate streets of Black Ridge Hollow, a forgotten town nestled deep in the heart of Appalachia. The air was thick with the scent of burning wood from nearby chimneys and the faint aroma of stale beer wafting from the local dive bar, Rusty Nail Tavern. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, where life moved at a sluggish pace, punctuated only by the occasional rumble of engines or the distant echo of laughter from those brave enough to venture outside after dark. But tonight, something felt different. The usual hum of crickets was drowned out by an unsettling silence, as though even nature itself knew that trouble was brewing. Cars lined the cracked asphalt parking lot of Rusty Nail, their headlights flickering like restless eyes watching for danger. Among them stood a gleaming black Dodge Challenger Hellcat, its polished chrome accents reflecting the dim streetlights like a predator's glinting teeth. To most, it was just another muscle car, but to Eli Carter, a wiry 16-year-old who spent his evenings mopping floors at the tavern, it was nothing short of a dream on wheels. Eli couldn't tear his gaze away from the Challenger. He'd grown up flipping through dog-eared car magazines, tracing the sleek lines of machines he could only fantasize about owning someday. But now, here it was, a real-life beast, parked mere feet away, daring him to imagine what it would feel like to grip its leather-wrapped steering wheel. His hands trembled slightly as he leaned against his mop, lost in thought. Little did he know, this seemingly ordinary night was about to spiral into chaos, and that the Challenger would become both a symbol of hope and a target for destruction. As Eli daydreamed, the ground beneath his feet began to vibrate. At first, it was subtle, a low, menacing growl that crept into the atmosphere like thunder rolling across the hills. Then came the roar, a deafening symphony of revving engines that shattered the fragile calm. From the shadows emerged a pack of motorcycles, their riders clad in black leather jackets emblazoned with the insignia of a crimson skull, a chilling emblem belonging to the notorious gang known as the Iron Skulls. Their leader, Victor Viper Kane, cut through the group like a snake slithering toward its prey. With his scarred face illuminated by the cold light of the moon, Viper exuded menace. Every movement he made radiated dominance, his piercing gaze scanning the scene until it landed on the Challenger. "Well, well," Viper sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "Looks like someone decided to park their shiny toy right where it doesn't belong." His cronies chuckled darkly, but there was no humor in their laughter, only malice. One of them, a hulking brute named Brick, stepped forward and ran his gloved hand along the Challenger's flawless surface, leaving behind streaks of grease. "This thing screams rich kid," Brick muttered, his tone laced with contempt. "Bet whoever owns it thinks they're untouchable." Viper's lips curled into a cruel smirk. Untouchable? Not tonight. He turned to Eli, who had frozen mid-mop, his knuckles white around the handle. "You!" Viper barked, pointing a finger tipped with brass knuckles. "What are you doing standing so close to my new favorite punching bag?" Eli swallowed hard, his throat dry as sandpaper. I didn't steal it," he stammered, clutching the mop like a lifeline. "It's not mine, I swear." Viper tilted his head, feigning curiosity. "Oh, really? So some good Samaritan just handed you the keys to a $100,000 car and said, 'Go ahead, kid, take it for a spin.'" The gang erupted into mocking laughter, their voices echoing off the surrounding buildings. Eli's heart pounded in his chest as Viper closed the distance between them, his shadow looming large under the flickering neon sign of Rusty Nail. "Let me tell you how this works," Viper hissed, grabbing Eli by the collar and yanking him closer. "In my town, people like you don't get to touch things like that unless they want to lose more than just their dignity." Eli's knees buckled, but before he could respond, Viper shoved him aside with enough force to send him sprawling onto the pavement. The gang circled the Challenger like vultures, descending on carrion. Brick produced a crowbar from his jacket and tapped it menacingly against his palm. Another member, Snake Eye, pulled out a switchblade, its blade glinting wickedly in the dim light. "Time for a little lesson," Viper declared, his voice dripping with sadistic glee. Without warning, Snake Eye lunged forward, dragging the blade across the Challenger's hood, carving jagged lines into its once pristine paint job. Eli gasped, scrambling to his feet. "Stop, please stop," he begged, tears welling in his eyes. But Viper wasn't listening. Instead, he grabbed one of the side mirrors and wrenched it off with a sickening crack. "Oops," he taunted, tossing the broken piece onto the ground. "Guess it wasn't built to last." Brick followed suit, smashing the windshield with his crowbar. Glass shards exploded outward, glittering like deadly confetti in the pale moonlight. Each blow struck deeper into Eli's soul, turning his fear into a seething rage he barely recognized. Yet, despite the terror coursing through him, something inside refused to let him back down. As the gang continued their assault, Eli planted himself firmly between them and the car, his fists clenched and trembling. "I won't let you destroy it," he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. For a moment, Viper paused, studying Eli with a mixture of amusement and irritation. "Look at this little hero," he jeered, spreading his arms wide. "Trying to protect a car that ain't even his. How noble." The gang roared with laughter again, but Eli stood his ground, his resolve hardening with each passing second. This wasn't just about a car anymore. It was about proving that he wouldn't be cowed by bullies like Viper. And though every fiber of his being screamed to run, he stayed rooted to the spot, ready to face whatever came next. Just as Viper raised his fist, preparing to deliver a devastating blow to Eli, the doors of Rusty Nail burst open with a thunderous crash. Out strode a figure whose very presence seemed to command the attention of everyone present. Mike Tyson, the legendary boxer whose name alone carried weight far beyond the ring. Clad in a simple tank top and sweatpants, his muscular frame rippled with power, and his steely gaze bore into Viper like daggers. The crowd froze, the tension palpable as Tyson surveyed the scene with an expression of quiet fury. "What the hell is going on here?" Tyson growled, his voice low and dangerous, cutting through the stunned silence like a knife. Viper, momentarily caught off guard, quickly masked his surprise with a sneer. "Mind your own business, old man," he spat, attempting to regain control of the situation. But Tyson wasn't intimidated. Stepping closer, his massive shoulders squared, he locked eyes with Viper, his jaw clenched tight. "That's my car you're tearing apart," he said, his words sharp and deliberate. "And if you think I'm letting you walk away after this, you've got another thing coming." The gang exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado wavering under Tyson's unrelenting stare. Brick tightened his grip on the crowbar, but even he hesitated, sensing the storm brewing in Tyson's demeanor. "You want to fight, tough guy?" Viper challenged, stepping forward, his fists balled. Tyson didn't flinch. Instead, he cracked his neck, the sound echoing ominously in the tense air. "You have no idea who you're messing with," he replied, his voice dripping with menace. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, without warning, Viper lunged, swinging wildly at Tyson. But Tyson was faster. With lightning speed, he sidestepped the punch, grabbed Viper's wrist, and twisted it with such force that the gang leader cried out in pain. Before anyone could react, Tyson delivered a devastating uppercut that sent Viper crashing to the ground, blood spurting from his split lip. The rest of the gang hesitated, their confidence crumbling. But then Snake Eye charged, brandishing his switchblade. Tyson ducked under the wild swing, seized Snake Eye by the throat, and slammed him into the side of a nearby truck with bone-crushing force. The impact reverberated through the parking lot, leaving a dent in the metal. Brick tried to intervene, swinging the crowbar overhead, but Tyson caught it mid-air, yanked it from his grasp, and used it to knock him unconscious with a single blow. One by one, the gang members fell, their earlier bravado replaced by sheer panic as Tyson unleashed his full wrath. By the time the dust settled, the Iron Skulls were either sprawled on the ground, groaning in agony, or fleeing into the night, their tails between their legs. As the chaos subsided, Tyson turned his attention to Eli, who stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You okay, kid?" Tyson asked, his tone softening but still tinged with concern. Eli nodded slowly, unable to find words. The adrenaline coursing through him was overwhelming, but amidst the wreckage, he felt a strange sense of triumph. Together, they surveyed the damaged Challenger, its once gleaming exterior marred by scratches and dents. "Don't worry about the car," Tyson said, placing a reassuring hand on Eli's shoulder. "It can be fixed. What matters is, you stood your ground when it counted." In that moment, Eli realized that justice had been served, not just for the car, but for everyone who had ever lived in fear of the Iron Skulls. With the Iron Skulls defeated, the aftermath of the confrontation left the parking lot eerily silent, save for the groans of the injured bikers sprawled across the cracked asphalt. Mike Tyson stood tall, his chest rising and falling with exertion, surveying the scene with a mix of satisfaction and grim determination. Viper, battered and bleeding, struggled to sit up, his once menacing aura reduced to a pitiful shadow of its former self. "You think this is over?" he rasped, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Tyson crouched beside him, his expression unreadable, but undeniably intimidating. "No," he said, his voice low and steady. "But you should. Because if I see you or your crew causing trouble again, next time won't end with just a beating." The remaining members of the Iron Skulls scrambled to their feet, dragging their wounded comrades toward their bikes. They cast furtive glances at Tyson, their earlier arrogance replaced by raw fear. One by one, they mounted their motorcycles, engines roaring to life as they fled into the darkness, leaving behind only the acrid smell of burnt rubber and the metallic tang of blood. Eli watched them go, his heart still racing, but a newfound sense of relief washing over him. For the first time in years, the oppressive grip of fear that had haunted Blackridge Hollow seemed to loosen its hold. Tyson turned to Eli, his features softening slightly. "Kid, you did good tonight," he said, his voice carrying a rare warmth. "Not everyone has the guts to stand up when it matters. Remember that." Eli nodded, his trembling hands finally steadying as he processed everything that had transpired. The Challenger, though battered, remained a testament to resilience. a symbol of defiance against tyranny. As Tyson patted him on the back, the two shared a moment of quiet understanding. Justice had been served, not just for Eli or the car, but for the entire town. And as they walked back toward Rusty Nail, the neon lights flickering softly above them, it was clear that Blackridge Hollow would never be the same again. As the night drew to a close, the air around Rusty Nail Tavern grew heavy with reflection. Inside, Mike Tyson sat at a corner booth, nursing a glass of water while Eli perched nervously across from him, still processing the whirlwind of events. The once chaotic parking lot outside was now eerily quiet, save for the faint hum of the neon sign casting an orange glow over the battered Challenger. Its dented frame and shattered windshield told a story of resistance and triumph, a physical reminder of the courage it took to defy the Iron Skulls. Tyson leaned back, his imposing figure relaxed, but his eyes sharp as ever. "You know," he began, his gravelly voice breaking the silence, "a lot of people talk about bravery, like it's some grand, fearless act. But real bravery isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified." Eli nodded slowly, his fingers tracing the edge of his soda glass. "I didn't feel brave," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't let them win." Tyson chuckled, a deep rumble that filled the small space. "That's exactly what makes it brave, kid. You stood up when most folks would have run. That says something about who you are." He paused, leaning forward slightly, his gaze locking onto Eli's. "And don't forget, standing your ground doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Sometimes, fighting for what's right means knowing when to ask for help." Eli mulled over Tyson's words, the weight of the lesson sinking in. Beyond the immediate victory over Viper and his gang, the night had shifted something deeper within him. It wasn't just about protecting a car or defending himself. It was about realizing that fear could be faced, that injustice didn't have to go unanswered. Outside, the townsfolk who had peeked through windows during the chaos began emerging cautiously, their faces etched with awe and gratitude. Whispers spread like wildfire. The Iron Skulls were gone, their reign of terror ended by a teenage boy and a boxing legend. For Eli, the realization dawned that this moment wasn't just personal, it belonged to the entire town. The Challenger, battered but unbroken, stood as a monument to resilience. And as Tyson rose to leave, clapping Eli on the shoulder one last time, he offered a parting thought. "Life's gonna throw curveballs, kid. But remember tonight. Remember how it feels to stand tall, even when the odds are stacked against you." With that, Tyson disappeared into the night, leaving behind a legacy of courage that would ripple through Blackridge Hollow for generations to come. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, and write in the comments what city you were from. The story of Eli and the Hellcat is more than a clash between a teenager and a banger gang. It's a blueprint for navigating life's toughest battles. At its core, it teaches us that courage isn't about fearlessness, but about choosing to act, even when every instinct screams to retreat. Eli's trembling defiance mirrors our own struggles, standing up to bullies at school, resisting workplace toxicity, or speaking out against societal injustices. His journey reminds us that silence fuels oppression, but a single act of bravery can shatter cycles of fear. The mangled Challenger, scarred yet unbroken, symbolizes resilience. In a world obsessed with perfection, its dents whisper a vital truth. Survival is not about avoiding damage, but learning to wear your scars as proof of endurance. Whether it's a failed project, a broken relationship, or a mental health battle, resilience means rebuilding, not quitting. Mike Tyson's intervention underscores another lesson. No one wins alone. Just as Tyson's strength amplified Eli's courage, we thrive when we lean on mentors, friends, or communities. Pride isolates. Humility to ask for help empowers. The Iron Skulls' defeat also warns against underestimating underdogs. Society often dismisses quiet voices, the introvert, the rookie, the outsider. But Eli proves that conviction, not loudness, drives change. In an era of viral outrage and performative activism, this story urges us to channel rage into purpose. Fight for what matters, not just what trends. Finally, the tale rejects the myth of overnight heroism. Eli's courage wasn't born in that parking lot. It grew from years of suppressed hopes and stifled dreams. Likewise, our breakthroughs often stem from slow-burning grit. So nurture your passions, even if they seem insignificant now. That hobby, that side hustle, that quiet act of kindness, they're training grounds for future bravery. Take this challenge. Next time fear paralyzes you, ask, what would Eli do? Defend your challenger, your values, your people, your dreams, with the same ferocity. And remember, justice isn't served by waiting for heroes. It's built by ordinary people choosing to be brave, one cracked windshield at a time. This story is entirely fictional, crafted to inspire and entertain. Grateful to have you here. Which part of the world are you watching from? And please leave your thoughts on the message I want to convey.
If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe Undercover Insights channel.